This is an introduction to one of the most critical MP3s anyone's going to listen to. It's about active measures. It's about brainwash, practical politics. You see, after 15 years, any young person on the planet, if you let me control the school system for 15 years, I don't have to destroy the country. They'll do it for me. This is going to be an education on what's been done to you and what's been done in many countries around the world. I'm going to give you a brief introduction to a topic that is critical for you to understand. It's a process you've been under your whole entire life, but very few of you know it. The actual word for it is demoralization, or activnia merprenacia in the language of the old KGB, or basic active measures, psychological operations, psychological warfare. It's an ancient technique, actually, a four-step process of taking down a society, and it was basically institutionalized and made into like a science in the Soviet Union when the Soviet Union got going to start spreading communism. And it's a great brainwashing technique, and it happens in 4 stages. But the first is most critical. It's demoralization, or active measures. Activnia merprenacia is how it's actually pronounced, and they still use that word, that phrase in the FSB, the modern KGB. It was estimated that about 85% of the KGB was not based on James Bond type stuff. They weren't running around the world spying on people. No, they were engaged in active measures. It's estimated that our CIA and many of our different organizations that will remain nameless, alphabet agencies, are similar in that regard. Most of you maybe are getting to understand that. That's one of the reasons that Bob Whitaker was hired by the CIA. He was hired to do talking points in a closed society that was coming down, that type of thing. But that is all active measures of various different types. But the first step is demoralization. It's a great brainwashing technique, and the principle is to change reality to such an extent that despite of an abundance of true information, no one can come to sensible conclusions to come to the defense of themselves, their family, their loved ones, their nations, their race, etc. And it is a dramatic brainwashing technique, and it takes 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation or a group, because that's how long it takes to educate your enemy in the ideology that you want to educate them in. It takes that long to get the textbooks out and to get one generation under those textbooks. But it takes 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation or an organization. The second step is destabilization. It takes 2 to 5 years to destabilize a country. There are 3 components of destabilization when it comes to a country: economy, foreign relations, and defense. The third step, and the most critical, is crisis. It only takes 6 months to bring a country or nation into crisis. And then once a country's into crisis, you go into normalization. Normalization is a cynical Soviet expression that comes from when Brezhnev took over Czechoslovakia. He said, brotherly Czechoslovakia is now under normalization, or now going through the process of normalization. You get it. It's a cynical expression, and it can last indefinitely. But that is a critical process for you to understand, and the most critical is demoralization. 15 to 20 years to demoralize, to brainwash a nation. But that process, a new process of communication, totally halts demoralization. Demoralization comes to a complete halt anytime a new technology is introduced. It starts to neutralize it. What's the joke? What's black and white and totally over? Newspapers. The internet did that. It totally neutralized our enemy, whether they liked it or not. But how long has the internet been out? Well, the internet's roughly around that 14, 13, 15, depending on how you look at it, let's just say even 15 years, somewhere in that area. We're coming into D-Day. Newspapers are totally over.